Hi, I wanted to share with you an amazing story that I heard this week, or an amazing discovery that somebody shared with me. It seemed like there was a professor, someone in the United States, that really wanted to understand what it took to become a millionaire. So he got 250 millionaires in the United States to agree to have a graduate student follow them around, observe them, study them for 6 months. And the hope was at the end of that 6 months, they would all get together and they would try to come up what was the secret recipe, the ingredient for success, the ingredient to become a millionaire. And that's what happened. For 6 months, they followed each of these corporate executives, each of these wealthy people around. And then 6 months later, all of the 250 graduate students got together to discuss their results, to figure out what is it, what is that secret ingredient in the recipe that makes these people so successful. Interestingly enough, almost all of them had a similar common denominator, a unanimous character trait. And that character trait was that they were go-getters and that nothing could stand in their way when they set their mind that they wanted something. They wanted to buy something, they wanted to do a deal. They would get that deal, they would win that negotiation, no matter what stood in their way or who stood in their way. Interestingly enough, only 249 out of the 250 millionaires fit the bill. One of them was not that type of person. He had no lawsuits against him. His reputation was as a calm, easy to get along person. He was not a go-getter. He was not neck to neck. And they couldn't understand. He was the anomaly. He didn't fit the bill. So they went over to him and they interviewed him. And he shared with them something amazing, something remarkable. He said, I was exactly like every one of those 249 guys until something happened in my life 2 years ago. He said, 2 years ago, my company was trying to expand into India and also into Israel. He says, after I finished business in Israel, I had 1 day left, myself and my team there. And we went on a tour. We went to the Western Wall. We visited a lot of the sites. We had a delicious dinner. And then our tour guide said, I want to show you guys something that usually is not shown on the tour, but I think is incredibly remarkable. He said they took us to a yeshiva in an old neighborhood of Jerusalem, the Mir Yeshiva in the Beis Yisrael neighborhood of Jerusalem. And they took us from study hall to study hall, from Beit Midrash to Beit Midrash, and they showed us hundreds and thousands of students studying. There was not enough room. Some of them were in the stairwells, sitting on the Aron Kodesh, in hallways. But yet, life seemed to progress like as if nothing had happened. They shared with us, says this CEO, that there were almost 7,000 students in less than a half a mile, in a quarter of a mile. If you tally up the amount of building space, each one of them had approximately a half a meter. He said, our tour guide turned to us and said, in the United States in a college, how much room do you think there is per student? Half a meter, 5 meters? The CEO said, I had no idea, but probably 10 times that amount. Then they asked us, how many professors do you think there are? What is the faculty like? We said maybe 750, 1,000 professors. They smiled and said 12. How about the administrative infrastructure? How many people are there? I don't know, they must have a full corporate infrastructure to run a place like this. The tour guide smiled and said, there is only one person in charge, and we're going to go meet him. But let me warn you, he has Parkinson's. So you may see sudden movements, sudden body gestures, but don't be thrown off by them. And they sat down around the very modest, simple apartment of Rabbi Nassim Tzvi Finkel of blessed memory, the CEO and the Rosh HaYeshiva, the dean of the yeshiva. They were struck by the simplicity of the apartment. It was just wall to wall with books, with basically no real furniture, no luxury, not what one would think would be fit. The dean, the CEO of a college, of a rabbinical college with almost 7,000 students. And then Rabbi Finkel looked at them and rhetorically asked them, guys, what's the difference between a human being and an animal? And before they had a chance to answer, the rabbi said, I'm going to tell you the difference. The difference is that when an animal sees something and it wants it, nothing could get in its way. It will jump, it will lunge, it will attack, it will strike, it'll do whatever it has to get what it needs. A human being, just because it sees something, just because it wants something, it doesn't mean it has to have it. The difference between a human being and an animal is simple self-control. He said, you want to know how each of these students manage with less than a meter of space per student? It's because they have self-control. It's because when a person has self-control, they think about other people's feelings. They think about other people's needs and wants and desires. They don't just see their own goals and trample everything in the way. That, the rabbi said, is the difference between a human being and an animal. The CEO continued, I walked out of the rabbi's house staggering, and I realized that there was another way to be at the top of a massive infrastructure, and that was with self-control. And ever since that day, I did a 180-degree change, and my company still prospers. My board is still happy. My employees are happier. My family is happier. That, he says, is the ingredient. That's the secret recipe to be a millionaire. It's about drive. It's about hard work. But it's also about thinking about other people. And that only comes through self-control. So do you want to be a millionaire? Do you have what it takes? I hope so. Shabbat Shalom until next week.